Welcome to American History Notes, where I'm going to present to you some things I've learned or think I've learned about American history. You might not agree with my conclusions, you probably won't, and that's okay. I just hope that you come to your own conclusions about American history. We're going to discuss today, begin an introduction to social movements, certain social movements that were important in the 19th, and particularly the 20th century. And this is an introduction today, and then we'll talk about feminism, gay rights, things like that um, after this. So today, though, we're gonna open this up. Um, I want to say I make no claim to being impartial and objective. As in all of my studies, you take the information and run with it and learn on your own. If you can prove to me I'm wrong, then I'm blessed by your efforts and my edification. The Bible is my final authority in all matters of faith, practice, and doctrine. The Constitution of the United States follows behind that authority in all matters political. We have to deal with the fact that individual people have suffered at the hands of others when we talk about these social movements. Understand that first. And many people have non traditional feelings that define who they are in their own minds and are encouraged and rallied by a sense of community, bonding politically with others who feel the same way they do, and finally being pandered to by individual political parties. We also have to deal with, though, and this is what I'm going to be talking about, the academic underpinnings of movements in our country founded in Marxism. If you examine the writings of feminists, gay rights activists, and transgender activists, you see they all run back by the same thread as the much debated critical race theory through Marxist writers of the post World War II era. I'm reading their works now, the works of postmodern philosopher Michel Foucault and Marxist readings of Herbert Marcuse. I'm also reading Introduction to Critical Race Theory that literally links feminist and sexual movements to CRT. From these authors and a few others flow all of these modern leftist movements committed academically, theoretically, philosophically, committed to destroying all tradition and morality based on a very old notion that to change society you have to destroy its foundations. As I'm quoting from the Net of Faith, written by Peter Chelsicky in 1443, quote, "You cannot improve society without first destroying the foundations of the existing social order." Now, please bear with me in a little history by way of introduction. For the last 200 years plus, we've been living in a revolutionary age. It's an age where all tradition and traditional institutions are questioned. It's an age when God's very existence is denied by political and academic leaders. It is an age where everything that God said he wanted from man, even natural reality itself, is being rejected on a scale never before imagined. And even the Bible is challenged and questioned by so called Christian skeptics. And it is an age where the revolutionary changes the definition of words to manipulate the culture. This has all been going on since the French Revolution in the late 1700s. Before the word socialism or the word socialist came into common use, there were the initiators of the French Revolution. You know, the one where they cut off all those heads using a guillotine? They changed the meaning of the words like democracy, nation, revolution, and liberal, and added new words like socialist and communist. Even our idea of right and left politically came from the right side of the king before he was murdered, being on his side, and the left being against the monarchy and all tradition. In order to make this happen, they required everyone to speak only French, before which a minority of people of the territory we know of as France today actually spoke that language as their main language. Now they could control words, and by controlling words, control education, and by controlling education, control minds. The French Revolution was born in brothels and bars and Masonic lodges of the late 1700s, then began a mass murder to, quote, purify society. First change the words, then indoctrinate, then marginalize and murder those who don't understand or go along, or just murder them because they represent an older ideal. Lenin and other Russians who led the Russian Revolution over 100 years later often refer to the French Revolution in their writings. And the secret police, the Cheka, even conducted massacres on the anniversaries of events of the French Revolution. You're all familiar with Karl Marx and have probably heard of his writings. One of his arguments for communism, which he didn't invent, presented by the French Revolution and those who carried on that, quote, dream, that revolution unfinished, was the abolition of traditional marriage. To him, it was inevitable in the so-called progress of human civilization. And Marxism didn't hit our shores with full force until the 1870s, during an economic depression that lasted until the end of the century, even though there were socialist groups in our country early on. Um, and Marxism eventually became very popular among the elites of our country, especially those who worship the state as in government. It infiltrated our schools and our government. We adopted all the planks of Marxist communism, from the income tax to forced public schooling to restricting, while not altogether yet abolishing private property. Pay attention to what the World Economic Forum and the Democratic Party elites are saying right now about that. You can find the World Economic Forum quoted on Xinhua, the Communist Chinese Party mouthpiece, online, and our current president is one of the writers of the World Economic Forum's agenda, according to their website. It's all interconnected to global communism that stems through the French Revolution to today. So we're going to start with talking about the feminist movement, the three waves of it, in the next time. And I thank you for listening. And like I say, you may be totally offended by what I say. You may totally disagree with me. That's fine. As far as I'm concerned, that's great, as long as you're coming to your own conclusions from your own study. And I am deliberately separating this from the suffering and the oppression that an individual person has felt and had to deal with, as opposed to what I'm talking about is the academic underpinnings that is being presented publicly by the elites, our elites, in the news media and in academia and politically. So it's a totally separate thing, although it does come together at many points. So we'll talk about feminism next, and we'll go from there. And I hope that you'll be edified by this discussion and come to your own conclusions by your studies. Thank you.